right, morning to you. So-called Climategate. Allegations that scientists have been fudging climate change data in order to support their specific case. It's now threatening to overshadow Monday's start of a UN summit on the very subject. NBC News, the first to break the news that President Obama will be there, along with Energy Secretary Stephen Chu. Christian Freeland here speculating the reason they gave Obama that Nobel Peace Prize was to try to box him into going to this summit. That one interpretation, others obviously a bit less conspiratorial, but the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. All of the attendees will have to grapple with some serious new questions, however you cut it, that suggest research about the dire straits of our Earth is all science fiction. The UN says it's looking into dozens of hacked emails from renowned scientists. One message encourages those scientists to dodge any freedom of information requests about their research. In light of the science scandal, two members of the Academy want Al Gore to give his Oscar back. They say his winning film, An Inconvenient Truth, was in fact based on scientific lies. But wait, there's more. More evidence of an increasingly skeptical public. A Pew Research poll finds just 57% of Americans now think global warming is a serious threat. That is down from 71% last spring, although I'm not sure that a poll... It's not science, but then again, maybe the science isn't science. Talk about an inconvenient truth for climate change advocates. Joining the meeting now to talk about this, Dan Esty, Yale University researcher and climate change expert. He served as an environmental advisor to President Obama. And from our Burbank Bureau, certified skeptic Michael Shermer. He's executive director of the Skeptics Society. Dan, what is your perspective on the criticism of the data that's being presented, knowing that we're obviously dealing with imperfect information? We don't know everything there is to know, but we have this new sort of criticism. How do you respond to it?
Well, it's clear that we don't know everything there is to know about science and of the science of climate change. But that's not news to people who've been in this policy debate for some time. And I think it's been clear that good scientific background is quite clear on what we know with certainty and what we know with less certainty.
Right. I guess the concern here, though, is there evidence, and I look at the Australian Parliament and their decision to get rid of their carbon vote, the way it was structured, because they felt there was corruption in the quality of the science. In other words,
let's not overstate that. That really wasn't the foundation of the vote.
I don't want to misrepresent it.
Yeah, no, there's been debate in Australia, New Zealand, some other places about whether to go forward with action now or to wait for the United States and a global treaty. So I think that's really the context for this. But it is fair to say that this is not a good way to do science. A good science requires people to put their data out in the public, to allow others to review it, to take on critique, and that's the kind of work that I have always done at Yale, and I think that's the way good science is done. And that you accept that there will be uncertainties, that you're clear about what is anomalous or what doesn't fit your theory, and you try to lay it out there and then work with it. And life is messy, so is climate science. Yeah. But that is, in fact, the right way to go forward. And I think what you have to understand here, the basic story hasn't changed. We know that the greenhouse effect is real. We know that the level of greenhouse gas emissions has risen from pre-industrial times, and we're less certain, frankly, about the speed at which climate change might occur, at the magnitude it might occur, and what the regional distribution of harm would be.
Well, last question, then, Michael, I'm getting you in here, but what about those who would wonder whether there's a self-correcting aspect?
What do you mean by a self-correcting aspect?
Meaning that the atmosphere itself and that the Earth itself will correct for this.
No, I think there is, in fact, a lot of work being done on issues like that and trying to study some of the magnifiers or blunters of potential climate change, things like the oceans and like clouds. So there is work being done. There's a lot of effort being put into that. But again, the basic story here is really quite clear, that there's an issue of concern. How quickly it might hit us, who might get hit hardest is uncertain. But you don't wait for the house to burn down to buy insurance. And that's really what this climate negotiation next week is about, getting a global action plan in place that helps ensure that we take this problem seriously.
Understood. Michael Shermer, when you look at this whole debate, what makes you the most skeptical?
Well, I used to be a global warming skeptic, and I've largely come around to the science. I think we could tease it apart into 5 different questions. Is the Earth getting warmer? The data is pretty strong on that, yes. Is the warming due primarily to human causes? Again, the data is pretty strong on that. that is in fact the case, although there may be some natural causes as well. 3, how much warmer is it going to get? Well, what's the time horizon? 50 years, 100 years, 500 years? And the further out on the time horizon we go, the greater the error bars in our estimates get. So it's harder and harder to say. So here it's okay to be a little more skeptical. And then 4, what should we do about it? I mean, what are the consequences going to be, and so on. There, the error bars are pretty wide, and there's room for debate, I think, on how much money we should spend, depending on how much warmer we think it's going to get and what its consequences will be.
Yeah. Listen, thank you both.
On the emails.
Yeah, go ahead. Real quick on emails and also on resistance to revealing the data set to everybody as a good scientist theoretically would if they're going to assert a conclusion that alters global policy.
Well, let me just say, you really do want to have your debate out in the public. You want to lay out your theory, present the evidence in favor of it, identify the weaknesses in your case, and let that debate go forward.
But a refusal to do that in those emails, Michael, that suggest a resistance to FOIA requests and the like to that data set suggests there could be another motive for the science, Michael.
Yep, I worry about that. The emails didn't have the smoking guns that I thought they would have, but they do show that scientists are politically motivated, just like everybody else. And I am concerned about the strong left-leaning nature of many scientists, and we need to be more open with the data and get politics out of the debate if possible. It's not possible completely, but I agree that we should publish all the data and let everybody have a look at it. Too many cover-ups imply conspiracy, and that makes people very paranoid about the whole
But let's be fair. There's been hundreds of scientists involved in this debate, and the fact that a few of them have confused the role of advocate with that of scientific researcher doesn't in any way diminish the underlying science, which you laid out very clearly. And I think that was quite a fair demonstration. And it does highlight that the real debate here shouldn't be about the science, where there is some uncertainty but enough clarity to take action. The debate should be around what policy response, and there are some real questions there that should be debated.
But it doesn't. But to the extent to which that all has integrity, the perceived integrity of what you are saying is diminished by scientists who appear to be hiding something, because then the veil of suspicion or the eye of suspicion is cast upon the entire data set when a certain number of scientists who are trying to retain their particular political power or role as meaningful advocate and feel threatened by the truth. That hurts the integrity of everything.
That's true, and I think we should be very clear that this is an area where we need to be open, we need to be transparent, we need to lay out the story. People can argue their case, but I think that the fundamentals here don't change, and the basic consensus remains very strong across hundreds of scientists, and there will, of course, be some that don't follow good procedure, and we should condemn that.
And it should be not only condemned, but punished and eliminated from the conversation. If you want to have a clean data set, you don't keep bad data as a scientist inside your Petri dishes. It's just, you just don't.
Well, and you reveal where things don't fit.
Yep, that's it. I mean, otherwise it's not science.